I'd like to call the meeting to order. Liz, do you have anything for us that you want approved?
We're not getting your audio, Liz.
She's muted.
You're muted. Liz, can you hear us? Wave if you can.
I can hear you. You can't,
We got you.
I sent the meeting, the minutes out a couple of nights ago.
Okay, terrific.
Motion
So
approved. Second.
would you just repeat the dates and we'll move to accept?
Oh, gosh.
20,
It was,
Do you have it?
what was the 27th and the 20th, I think.
the 27th and the 20th of November. Right.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Jan, start with you.
Hi, Jan.
Liz?
Hi, Liz. Hi, Liz.
Bruce?
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Patrick.
Irani?
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Michaela.
Okay, the motion passes. And always to Liz, our great gratitude that you do such a fabulous job. The main item of business today is to talk about the donation letter. And I think everybody has a copy of it. I'd like to just review actually, I'd like to review it. And Donna, wherever you are.
Donna's there.
Yeah, Donna, would you like to start by, Nick couldn't join us, but just highlighting the major things that the committee, the trust should review on this letter today, because the purpose is to review this letter and hopefully approve it.
Okay, sure. So good afternoon, everybody. So of course, this is a generous donation to the town of a substantial piece of property, the primary purpose of which is to support affordable housing. In the event that 5 years goes by and there is no plan for the development of that housing within that time period, then the property must be offered to the town for dedication as open space. As you know, the town meeting must approve any acquisition of land. So this would need to be provided for a vote to the town. And if the town does not accept the property, then the property is returned to the donor. But again, the primary purpose and the hope is that this will indeed be developed for affordable housing.
And Donna, just to clarify, what you're saying is that in the event that we don't build housing and the land is to be donated for open space, it must go before town meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And if for any reason the town does not accept it as open space, Hans, it's my understanding that it would go back to you and your wife.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So that's the first thing you need to concentrate on. The second is going to be the due diligence, and that's in paragraph 4. And I know you're going to be reaching this later in your agenda, but the town will have up until May 1 to complete that due diligence. If it is not completed, the closing still is going to go forward on May 15th. There just may be things that the town's going to want to be finishing up after the closing occurs on May 15th.
Just as a correction, Donna, it's a technical one, but the town is
Sorry.
is
You're right.
accepting this land under the structure of the trust.
Yes, you're right. I misspoke. If the trust does not complete everything, the closing will occur between the trust and the Morrises on May 15th.
And I think that's an important point that needs to be considered by everyone as to whether we're comfortable that 4 months is enough time to do what we're, I personally think it's more than adequate time. The only reason it would go more slowly is because there are certain requirements that we live under, the town, the municipal requirements of how we procure talent. And so Michael, who can't be here today, has already started that process for us, and we're going to be talking about it a little later. So the key things I thought, well, go ahead, excuse me, Donna, please.
No, I thought those were the two key points. If you think, Rainey, there's something more, please bring it
No, I
up.
think it's the time to do the due diligence and the closing date, if those are acceptable, if everyone feels comfortable, if everyone on the trust feels comfortable with that. I think those, and the fact that it would go back. And also, but there is a requirement in here, and I think that I'd like to express personally, that the Morris family would like to be, and you could use your words, Hans, but consulted, or at least part of the process. We would certainly be submitting our plans to you before we take any major step.
Yeah, I think that, we want it to be like a New England, we want it to be consistent with the character of the town, and we want it to, so we'd like to have a chance to review that before anything is finalized.
Okay.
I have a question for Donna.
Sure.
Donna, I just want to make sure that in terms of the acceptance of the land, that for purposes of the housing, that the Affordable Housing Trust has the authority to accept the land without a vote of the town meeting. If it's for another purpose, the town meeting would then have to take a vote. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Good. Hans, did you have any comment you'd like to make on the document?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward and speaks for itself, so no.
Okay.
So Hans, I have a question for you. I would be comfortable with the language under number 1 where it says donors' right and authority to comment on design aesthetic considerations. That does not say review and approve. And frankly, I'm open to other language. I can't speak for the board, obviously, but obviously this is not only your parcel you're donating, but it's parcel that abuts you and other neighbors. And I just want to ensure that you feel that's strongly worded enough.
Well, I mean, I trust the people on the committee. I guess I would, if you said it's up to me, I would like a little bit more right to approve it. I don't know if that makes it unpalatable. That was what originally said. It was changed. I said, and so I told Nick, fine, but I would like a little stronger wording, but I don't know if the committee was acceptable.
I think that's something we should discuss.
Yes, I mean, I can speak for my personal opinion. I don't know, I worked very closely in developing this document, so I didn't see, Hans, any other language than this. So Donna, I would like to entertain a proposal, Hans, on what kind of language makes you more comfortable?
I mean, I would say a review and approve, but if that creates problems, I'm happy to consider something else.
So actually, my
Typical
recollection,
language, that I've seen is review and approve, with the approval not being unduly withheld.
Unreasonably is usually.
Unreasonably or unduly
Yeah,
withheld.
I'm happy with that. I mean, our idea here is not to, and I think I care a lot about, as I said, the character of the town, and that we want to have something that is consistent with that. But we certainly don't, I would not plan to get involved in a lot of details, but I do want to be able to say, yes, that is a great layout, and we agree with that.
I would agree.
Donna, do you have any thoughts on that?
yeah, so actually the first language, I did change it to this comment because originally it said participate in, and I didn't know what participate meant. That was just too vague for me. So I did change it to comment on. The review and approve, I would prefer it not, to review is fine, approval. So do we have to wait on the design until there's approval? Do we put a time period within
You
which?
can put a time, you can put a 1 week time period or something like that, or.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys would like that, we can do that. I can certainly put in that language.
So I'm happy with review and approve, which will not be unreasonably withheld and shall be prompt review and approval within, you say, 10 days of.
10 days.
Yeah.
I think that sounds very good.
Are you comfortable with 10 days?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna say if the 10 days passes, it's gonna be deemed approved.
That's fine.
Okay.
I think what's more likely is we'll probably see it, we'll be talking to you, and I doubt there'll be any surprises here.
Right. I don't think it will be a very formal process. It will be more just keeping you informed as we go along.
Can I ask Hans a question?
Sure, sure.
Hans, we have 4 of our neighbors here who are from Glendale Middle Road area and will be impacted by this if we proceed. Now, we have heard from you on your vision for doing this, but they're new to the process. And I would invite you, just if you wouldn't mind, to say a few lines about your view of this and why you're doing it and what your hopes are for it, just for the benefit of the neighbors.
Okay, yeah, and obviously I care about our neighbors too, and I think that our view is that Stockbridge needs affordable housing, and for people that work in the town or teach at Monument or Muddy Brook or other places, and that it's really, to me, it's a fundamental, it fundamentally affects the future of Stockbridge if we don't have people that can afford to live here. And that it's a unique property because we can, have a road that goes off of Glendale Middle Road that would lead into an area that would have a mix of public spaces, and I think public spaces for everybody, including all of you, and as well as some houses built at a higher density than would be typically allowed with, with the current zoning. But the higher density, which I think would be very consistent with houses, frankly, that are along Glendale Road or on the East Main Street in Stockbridge and or along Park Street. So they'd be, modest sized and hopefully nice looking, which is what we care about too. And there'd be a fair amount of retain natural elements and woods and some some areas for a playground or whatever. I mean, some trails that people could use and walk through. So that's what we have in mind. And our hope is that we're not sure exactly how many units could be fit in there, but we've got something where you get 20 families or something ultimately could have houses there. That's what we have in mind.
All right, thanks.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very
I
much.
just want to make a comment that after I had a little conversation with some of these folks when they came in, and there may be an impression that we are interested in creating another Pine Woods back there. And I don't think that's been our inclination. Hans just mentioned housing for teachers and that sort of thing. I just don't want people to have the wrong impression about what we're attempting to do. I won't, try to soft sell the fact that there's an impact on the neighborhood. And I think anything we attempt to do anywhere to provide the housing that we're committed to doing is going to have an impact on people. And we certainly want to minimize that to the extent that we can, but it is a goal of the town that created this board. And as you speak to people around town, people acknowledge that we need some housing that's more affordable. And I don't want to say affordable means subsidized. There may be some elements of that in this, depending on sources of income, of finances for this. We aren't at the stage where we even know how this could be financed, whether we need public funds or it can be done with private funds, and that will have an impact on the mix of housing. But it is to have a mix and not to create some kind of a low-income ghetto back there in the woods. That is not the intention of the board. And I just want, as we develop our ideas about this, I want you folks to know, what we're thinking about and to get your input to it. Acknowledging again that you're going to have some issues with it that are understandable, but I feel like we have a goal here and we're going to try to do it with minimal impact on the existing neighborhood. And I also want you to feel that you can call on me anytime. I called to talk to Tom Forbes today and got Colette on the phone just to alert you guys that we were having this meeting because you might not have known about it otherwise. And I don't want us to be proceeding in the dark here or trying to pull something over on anybody. I want you to know what's going on. We want to hear from you. But you should know that we are determined to try to accomplish the goal of having some more housing that's affordable in the town. It's something we've lost a lot of over the years. You all know how difficult it is to acquire and maintain a home in this town. And over the years, we've done some research on what's happened to the town. And the town has gotten older. We've seen a group of people that are struggling at the lower end of that income focus. And then a lot of people at the other end, we have a lot of people now who are $150,000 and up in income and are older, and we have hollowed out the middle-aged, middle-class people in the town. So even though you may drive around and not see much physical change in the town, which to a lot of people is very important, the town has changed dramatically in terms of the makeup of its population. We've had a lot of homes bought up as second homes. The number of homes owned by residents of the town has dropped. And the future of the town requires on having some more middle class, middle income, middle-aged and younger families here who will be the people sitting at this table in 20 years. And rather than just become some kind of an old retirement community, that's kind of a fake place. So that's our intention. We don't want to damage anybody else's situation, but we have goals we want to accomplish, which we think are right for the long-term future of the town. And we just want you to know where we're coming from as we proceed on this. And I think
just to add on to one comment onto what Mark said, we also think it's important that the people that serve our town, the teachers, the people that work in the town offices and police, fire, and so on and so forth, have the ability to live in our community. That we think that that's also an important aspect of what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you, Bruce. I'd like to reinforce that and welcome you. I was going to, after we finish with this donation letter, and Hans has a time limit, I'd like to go back on the donation agreement and.
Can we ask the participants to speak? If Hans has to go in 8 minutes, I would love for them to be able to get all this feedback before Hans has to leave.
All right. Well, we could do that. What I was hoping to do was incorporate you into our further discussion. Right now, this agreement is what we need in order to go forward. And we have.
I have a comment and potentially a question about the agreement itself, if I may.
Okay, yes, please, Bruce.
In paragraph 5 under title, first of all, I think the small Roman numerals are mislabeled. You have 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. So the second 2 should actually be 3, and then so on and so forth as it continues.
Got it.
So that I think is just a typo.
Good catch.
But in keeping with that, and this may be obvious to everyone else, and I'm just being ignorant or naive, in what is now the second Roman numeral 2, the issue of the classification of the forest land and the deeds in book 1029, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to be sure that the document that we have clearly, I don't know whether a survey needs to be done or what, but I think it should. I want to be sure that the document clearly defines what the parcel is that we are accepting from this very generous donation by the Morrises. And so I don't know if that's what's listed under second Roman numeral 2 is clearly defines that, or if we need to get someone out that actually does the typical land survey to define property lines.
Bruce.
Hans, this is in chapter 61 currently, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that what my recollection, Nick he called me about it. He said we need to sort out where this stands. And it, yes, it was filed under that. And I think the renewal, I think it's this year, 2024 is.
Yeah. So basically,
I'd like to speak to that because I've had quite a detailed conversation with Michael Canales, and he has had an extensive conversation with the assessor. And because the land's being transferred to the town, at the time we actually accept it, Chapter 61 will be taken away and will have no adverse consequences for the Morris. So that has already been handled. And that's, and in terms of your question about the title and the actual land that we're receiving, as part of our due diligence, we need a survey of the boundaries.
Okay.
So that will be one of the elements we're going to talk about under due diligence. But Hans, Michael has already, as soon as he realized that was an issue, he's been on it with the assessor, and they have already agreed, or they've developed, Michael has assured me that it is a non-issue, and the town can, as soon as we own it, the town can change it back.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to be sure that we, that the boundaries will be clearly defined and then correct the typo on the numeration.
Okay, Donna, I'm sure you can do that.
I've already done it. I'll
Okay.
send you I've
But I
already
think-
changed the language too.
Did you change the language on the review and approve?
I did.
Okay, because I think we'll have, since we have this document in front of us, we would first have to approve an amendment with that language.
can we just say subject to the changes we just outlined?
Okay. Donna, is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's what we've done before.
Okay, so the motion, do we have any other comments from the trust on this document? Jan, Liz, anyone at the table?
No.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to hear from the neighbors.
Do we have time, though, for Hans to, he has to go in
It'd
about
be
4
fine,
minutes?
we plan to do that.
Let me just, I'm waiting for someone to come here to meet me. I'll just check and see if they're here yet or just, but you can go forward. I can probably.
Okay.
Or two.
Oh, we can take our vote. He can go at any
We
time.
can, I'd like to take the vote.
I just think we should have public comment before we vote on it personally, but you're the chair.
Donna,
He's the,
I think
as the
the,
selectman, I think he knows what the.
right, well, my feeling was that I'm welcoming the public comment, but I think before.
Oh,
that-
actually, my 2:30 is delayed 15 minutes. You just emailed me, so I have 15 more minutes.
Okay,
Thank you, Hans.
terrific. In that case, if, I don't object, I would just like to do it so that you could comment on the actual accession of the property, because the committee obviously the trust intends to go forward. And I would welcome your participation as we move forward with the development of the land. So, but if you had something you'd like to say right now, since Hans has a few more minutes, I'd certainly welcome it. Could you introduce yourselves? We're delighted you're here, and tell us where you live.
I'm Elaine Markham, 11 Glendale Middle Road.
Okay,
Her husband, Bill Markham,
okay. Same place, I assume.
Coke Forms, and we live at 9 Glendale Middle Road.
Okay,
Peter Berinsky Jr., live at 7 Glendale Middle Road.
okay. And is the entrance to the Morris property
Yeah, through the Markhams and the
in
Forest.
between your two properties?
Yeah.
Terrific. Well, welcome.
There's an issue with that, but we'll discuss that later.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to contribute at this point about your concerns, or we're open and welcome to any comments that you'd like to make?
I think that we need to get all the information before we really sound off.
Okay,
You know?
fair enough.
How many, what's the minimum amount of housing that needs to go in on the property to make it
justifiable for the expenses. There's got to be a minimum number of houses you can put in there.
Well,
Do you know what that number is?
no, we know, you should understand at this point, we are accepting this property.
Correct.
Subject to a 4-month due diligence period. As we go through that, we do not have any basic information to share with you at this point. And that's our next task.
So you don't even know if this is even feasible.
That's correct.
So you guys haven't checked into the water, the sewer, any of that?
We have some very preliminary information, and we know that the sewer pipe is very small, and
Yeah,
so
you're gonna need a whole new sewer pipe from the pump station up.
there may be
And the
that.
water is very limited.
Is it? Okay.
We lost our house to a fire because we ran out of water. The fire engines did not have water.
Yeah,
They
there's
had
no-
to pump
right.
from the river, and we lost everything.
Right.
And now you want to add all these other houses and tax that system even more? It makes no sense.
Well, we've been in touch with Mike Buffoni and Tony Campetti, both in the water and sewer. They have consultants that they are checking with, and we do not yet have a number of what additional bedrooms that system could take. They did tell me that water for fire suppression is an issue. Potable water, they think would be okay for a limited number of homes, but fire suppression water is an issue. And it's something that we would have to, as part of our due diligence. But just to make it very clear, Hans has made this offer. We're interested in pursuing it. I mentioned when we spoke earlier that the cost of land acquisition is about 20% of the value of a new home. So getting a 20% discount on a house goes towards meeting our goal of making the homes affordable. But all we know is here's a piece of land, and it has to be surveyed. We have to have engineers go through there, maybe do some test bores. Where are the wetlands? Where are the ledges? What is a suitable place? How many trees do you want to knock down to do this? I mean, there's a zillion questions, and it's understandable that you have all those questions now, and we don't yet have the answers. But as we get the information and we have meetings, you folks should be, keeping an eye on Affordable Housing Trust agendas that are on the town calendar to see if there's, it's up there 48 hours before we meet. And if we have it on the agenda to discuss the land or the results of the consultant's findings or anything like that, you can zoom into the meeting or you can come here and attend. And we're really glad that you've come. So we have this contact with you folks who are directly impacted by this. But there's still a zillion questions to be resolved with the possibility that it's not a suitable place to even do it. That's one of the possibilities. I don't know what the odds are of that, but that's one of the possibilities.
Yeah, I just got a high level comments to make. First, I'm not sure how long people on the board have lived in this town, but I've definitely lived on that street for my whole life, so it's been 52 years. We've had a lot of setbacks on that street. We've made a lot of generous changes in order for the town to benefit from the street. So when I was a child, we had the town landfill up across the street. We lived with the rats, the traffic, the dust, the major trucks going in, when it would catch on fire during the summer. When the dump was closed back in somewhere in the 80s, I believe, we were told, you guys have really been good to us. We're going to close it. We're going to do it right. Nothing will go up on that land again. Then the town comes back and says, well, we can't make an agreement with the Marion Father, so the next highest spot is the top of the dump for a cell tower. We didn't want the cell tower as a visual. Everybody knows visuals are a negative. Not my opinion, just a general consensus. Cell tower got built. In conjunction with the cell tower, it was like, well, geez, green initiatives, which I'm not against, solar. Well, there was a lot of stuff that went on with the solar in the preliminary stages where the board is at this point in this project. We won't see it. We won't even know it's there. We're going to have an access road that might have a truck on it once a month. No impact on the neighborhood. Completely changed. We can see this, we can see the solar plain as day out the back windows because it was moved a little bit closer to the front side of the dump instead of up on the hill. So what my biggest concern as a neighbor is we've really made a lot of consents on the street to make the sewer project on the street more affordable to the town. We went to low pressure pump systems instead of gravity. That has impacted me as a homeowner considerably because I'm going on my third pump in like 15 years or 10 years, 12 years, whatever it is. And those are now, they went from the negotiated town rate of 3,200 up to close to 5,000, and they're gonna keep going up.
I've had two of them, so I know what you're talking about.
So we've really made a lot of sacrifices on that street. It's an old community. I will say my house is one of the newer houses on the street. Coke's is newer, but it was an existing house that was there. So I'm the new guy on the street, and I made sure that I did a lot of accommodations with my property to fit in with the neighborhood. So I just am cautious where it's a very generous donation that Mr. Morris is making. It's for a good cause. I'm just not sure if it's the right place. The land has been explored in the past for a similar type project, and it was realized that either the access to the land wasn't wide enough for emergency vehicles or the water was also an issue. What I don't want to see the town get into is we have this piece of land, now we own it. What are we going to do with it? Is it going to be that big black pit that, more money gets dumped into, whether it's, drainage, whether it's expanding the sewer line, whether it's cutting too many trees down for too much accessibility for the amenities that are going to be part of the project, and it really has that impact on I guess it would be the northwest side of the property, which would be Glendale Middle Road. And I'm really concerned. I mean, when I built this house, it was my idea when I built the house and I was in my 30s that this was going to be my retirement home, that I was going to pass on to my daughter. I'm really hoping that this project doesn't have a negative impact on my reason for wanting to stay in Stockbridge over the years. Everything you said about Stockbridge, absolutely. The town has watched it happen for the last 30 to 40 years. I was part of it. Lost a lot of friends moving to the cities and moving out of the area. It's sad. But sometimes evolution happens. That's what happens, and it's a sad thing, but it's reality. I just hope that when we move forward with this project, that it's done with everybody's best intentions in mind, and to keep in mind how many sacrifices we've made because we're just outside of the main street of Stockbridge of what we've already done and what we live with every day.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Well said.
I'd just like to stress that we hope and we would like your input and your concerns, and your information you've just shared with us is very, very valuable. We are aware that there are issues with the sewer and the water. We are not, and we're aware there are wetlands on the property. We are aware that it's a heavily forested area at the moment. Most of us have walked the land, and so we're aware of the grades and the physicality of it. And also the issue of the access is very narrow. But it's a challenge, and I think we're up to it. I think we're up to doing something that's a major addition that's very, very positive for our community, that it will be attractive. It will be our goal is to create something that's an enormously positive, and positive for the neighbors and positive for the community. So you have our commitment to that. And we welcome your participation as much or as little as you'd like to. We are accepting, the purpose of today is to accept the land so that we can go forward with our due diligence. And as we go through that due diligence in the next 4 months, you are very, very welcome, and we hope you will come. and participate. And if there are issues that you would like to participate in, please let me know, and we will make sure you're notified as we get that information.
Do you have a map of the intended 35 acres?
We do.
Is that something
There's nothing.
you can share with us?
Oh, yeah, I have some
So we can
maps.
see exactly.
It's actually on, our wonderful map maker has found these things here.
This doesn't give any indication of what would go there, because we don't know that yet.
Right. We just
But,
want to know
Here,
which section, is it going to be right on top of our houses? Is it going to be?
Should be right on the GIS on the
yes.
top thing, right?
For you. The thinking, and again, it's preliminary, so I don't want to be held to, there's your road.
Yep.
And would be up in this corner, but there's plenty of woods here for a barrier to these homes.
Okay.
Actually, there isn't.
What is this 80 feet right here?
Those are the two pieces of parcels that Hans owns.
Yeah, it's not 80
It's
feet.
not 80 feet.
55,
It's not 80 feet.
It's 57 feet.
Yeah.
I have the map when my mother traded property with Swans. I had that, I had it and left it on the table. It's 57 feet.
Well, this is one of the things we're going to have it surveyed. What I used to determine that was on the town GIS map, there's a little place where you can measure and it gives you the footage. I don't know how accurate it is.
Not accurate, yes.
All right, well,
Yeah,
there we go.
it's definitely not
Well, we're
accurate.
going to have a surveyor.
Okay.
And again, that's one of the things is we determine whether this is even feasible.
So there wouldn't be
So
any,
this is going to be behind.
so let's say
That's
it's,
your house.
let's, for rounded numbers, say it's 50 feet, you need your 80 feet or you need 100 feet.
So
Would that kill the project? We're not gonna do eminent domain and make this project happen no matter what.
I think the minimum road in Massachusetts is 50 feet.
So.
But this will be zoned different than residential, correct?
No, it's residential.
No, it'll be,
This will be R1?
That's only.
it is R1.
It doesn't, the zoning doesn't work like that. The local zoning doesn't apply.
This
I don't need
is probably not
Bill
buildable.
Reynolds, let's see.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm looking,
Thank you, though.
I'm looking at the 50-something.
Yeah, and I think it says, it right. I think the numbers are
Right
right.
here.
At least on the
They
GIS.
are buildable.
Forgive me, but this is the information that we
No,
have
that's
right at the moment. So I'd like to move forward. Patrick, could we, or would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, sure. I make a motion that we accept with changes the donation escrow agreement.
Second.
And could you also add, and we authorize the chair
We authorize
sign.
the chair to sign
to sign on behalf of the trust?
on behalf of the trust.
Second.
Donna, do we need anything else other than that?
No.
Okay, very good. Is there any discussion of the motion? Further? Okay, Jan, you want to start? Shall we vote?
Yes, I vote yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Liz.
you have to say aye, Jan.
I Jan.
Hi, Liz.
Okay, Bruce?
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Patrick.
Aye, Randy?
Hi, Mark.
I McKenna.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very, very much. And so Hans, is a procedural matter. Donna, I guess you've already corrected this and you'll send it to all of us. And I will send it to Nick for your signature, Hans, your case. Okay?
Rainey,
May I,
Rainey, it is in your inbox now. And
Oh.
I copied Nick on it as well already.
Okay, terrific. Well, I'd like to make sure Nick is in agreement. And he'll send it, have you sent it, well, Nick will send it to you, Hans, in its final form. And when we have your feedback, then I'll sign it and send it to Nick for your signature. Okay.
Thank you, Hans.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, Donna,
I'm gonna zip up. Okay, thanks a lot.
thank you
Thank you very much, Hans.
And
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
we would like,
Thanks, Donna.
Yep.
he's gone, but this is an extraordinary thing that he's done. So we are extremely grateful. Next, I would just like to, for those who've been able to look at the scope of services that was sent out, there are a couple of questions. The 4 areas that have been identified that we need to focus on is what's called a 21E, which is an evaluation of the land for any environmental issues or concerns or removals. And the way that's done, it's called phase 1. And phase 1 is where they do a historical review of the land and see if there's any concerns that need to require testing, and that's called phase 2. So in the scope of services, they will give us a quote for a phase 1, but they will not be able to give us a quote for phase 2 until we find out if there are any issues, and we have to do sampling. The second one is wetlands, and we have some very, very preliminary information off of the information that the GIS has delineated. Hans had done some research, but we need to find out what we have for wetlands. And the question that I would like to raise for the trust is whether we would like to have what's called either a reconnaissance survey or a delineation survey. Just in talking to an engineer about this, a reconnaissance is that they walk the land and they mark it and they make an estimate of how big the wetlands are and where they are. And that, as an order of magnitude, is $800 to $1,000. A delineation survey is a much more detailed survey where a surveyor goes out with them and they actually survey and, mark the land. And that's a cost of maybe $3,000. The other question is if we actually want a boundary line survey, depending on how complicated the title is. And I don't know, we lost Dominic.
The assessor stuff is kind of, the title related stuff is
Sorry.
No, I think that we have the land survey as part of it's in the, under number 1 of the project components.
Yes, but it's asking for, but what I'm raising is there's different ways to do surveys. Depending on how complicated the description of the title is. If some of these titles, we know that this land has been in the Swan's name since 1900. So for 120 years, the Swans have owned this property. No, I think Hans brought it in 2016. So for 116 years, it was in their name.
I think we need a boundary line survey because we already have an issue about the boundary line.
No, there's no question that we do.
Okay.
There's levels of boundary line surveys.
All right.
And so there's more simple ones that will give us an idea, it will give us an outline. And then there are very detailed ones that can be $10,000 to $20,000. So how much money do we want to spend now?
I think we should stick with the due diligence necessary to close.
So what does that mean?
It means if we're being told that we can do it with the standard survey, that's what we should do.
Okay. Comments? Could everybody hear Patrick?
Standard
Yes,
survey.
I agree.
I
If we have
agree
a
also.
problem, it'll be revealed and we can always vote in more
Yeah,
money.
Right.
There might be other things that
Yeah,
come up
that's right.
first where you say, well, we can't move forward anyway, so let's not spend
Yeah,
20,000 out the gate.
yeah, I agree.
on a survey, but we will get the basic information.
Right.
And then the other issue is that's for some reason is not in this material that I sent you. We need to know something about the topography because it's very steep land. But there are two ways to do that. One is called a LIDAR survey, which uses the GIS and it gives us a good sense of how steep things are, but not the absolute detail. And a full topographic study is a great deal more expensive than what's called this LIDAR, LIDAR survey. My feeling is that we are best off on all of these decisions doing the first step, getting the information, and then making a determination if we should spend more money. Do you agree? Jen, Liz?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. I don't think we have to have a motion on these things. I think that if I could summarize that the sense of the trust is that we should proceed to hire, we need to hire an engineer, and we should send the scope of services in and get a preliminary with the first, I'm going to call it the first step in all these 4 areas. And once we get that information, make a determination as to whether we feel we need more information to make the decision about closing. Because Donna has said that the closing's going to happen May 15th. It's not going to happen May 15th if this trust decides, based on our due diligence, that it's not, this land is not desirable. So it isn't, she gave the impression, I thought, that it was just going to happen. It isn't going to happen until we determine.
We could decline before May 15th.
Yes,
If we don't
before-
do that, then it closes.
Right, but before May 15th, we have the option of declining. And so is the, because the next step after we actually own it would be to hire the consultants to do the land planning. And at that point, there would be more information. So if just, and welcome, I see, are you more neighbors? Would you like to introduce yourself so we know?
Randy,
Yes, Bruce?
I just have a question about the timeline.
Yes?
We're basically on, from today, we're on a little less than a 5-month time frame. And I see in the timeline that we are giving ourselves up to 90 days. That's 3 months to do all of the work on these 4 topics that are listed above. And, you know, if anything comes up that doesn't basically preclude us moving forward with the project that we envision, but we have some additional work to do. If we haven't gotten the information until 3 months from now, it only really gives us 2 months to do what we need to do before the closing. And so I question whether or not this timeline should be completed in a much more aggressive time period than 90 days.
I agree, and that's one of the things I've talked to Michael about, and one of the engineers who's bidding on it. They can actually, first of all, we need to get their bids, and the next meeting we have to have is to select who of the 3, we're bidding, we're asking RFPs for 4 different engineers, Bruce.
3, but yeah.
Right, so it means that we're not even going to, the 90-day clock isn't even starting until sometime after the holidays.
I don't know what you mean the 90 days. No, we got to give them less time than 90 days to get the.
Yes, exactly. That's my point.
Okay. So I think that 60 days is enough time for them to get the first round of information.
Can
Yes, Bruce. I mean, sorry, Patrick.
a couple of things. One, we're going to competitively bid this.
That's correct.
And we don't know what the amount is yet, but that will determine whether or not even that process, I assume it's not more than 50,000, but if it is, we may have to post that to combines and other things. So I think that to the degree that you've already reviewed the 3 pre-qualified bidders, I think we should not wait as a group to approve and select if Michael is comfortable with all 3 of these bidders, I believe that we should go with whichever one he ascertains is the best proposal / price that comes in and not wait. That's my first comment. My second comment is, I don't see why we need to have 3 progress meetings on a 2 or 3 month project. We only meet once a month. It just adds time to this process. Once again, this is due diligence. It is not about citing property or doing anything else. It's literally evaluating whether the land is appropriate for us to accept. And I think we should basically, let Michael manage getting the due diligence completed and not kind of have to add time around scheduling things in the meeting. And the third thing I would add is, once we approve this process today, none of us can be talking to any of these potential vendors. Again, it's a violation of procurement law. We can't be talking to any of the 3 vendors. Because if you do so, you then have to give all the information to any other vendor. So there's no contact once we've approved this today between us until that vendor is selected. And it comes out of an open bid session that'll occur all on the same day at a specific time designated in the RFP. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Well, yes, I think, does anyone have any questions about that? I think the question in my mind is, the trust, I would like for the trust to approve what engineer is selected.
I think you should approve the list, which I believe you've already done. And I don't know why we're wasting our time or the engineer's time if we're not prepared to hire anyone that we're asking for a bid on. We're talking about Ty and Bond and Foresight and another giant engineer, GZA. All of them are
Also,
more than
Berkshire,
qualified.
there's 4, it's Berkshire Engineering.
All right, all of them, I've worked with all of them extensively. They're all qualified to do the work. And because they are, I think we accept what is in all likelihood going to be the lowest bid unless there's some extraordinary difference in how they interpret the scope or something, at which point he can always come back to us and say, I need to have clarification. But in the absence of that, if you want to get this done in 4.5 months or whatever it is, I think we should not create impediments around bureaucracy here.
I think we're all in agreement with that. I think the question is, how much involvement does the trust want to have?
Well, I, for one, don't have the expertise to judge which of these people would be best. If Michael thinks the 3 of them are all qualified and they have a record and he has a reason for thinking that, then it seems like any of them would be qualified to do it. And I couldn't bring any judgment to the process that would be any better than just having him decide. We could call a quick Zoom meeting or something and within 24 hours and just, say, yes, sounds great, let's go, or whatever. But I think, I agree. We already have had a discussion. Bruce has raised the question of the time frame here. And I don't think we want to lose a day in the process if we can avoid losing a day.
Right.
It's not that many days till May.
Since this is my business and I do know a great deal about this, I am concerned.
We'll talk to Michael as he goes along then.
Right.
Bring your expertise to it. The rest of us, I don't think, have it.
I think that, I guess I would ask for perhaps from the trust authorization to work with Michael and to then inform everybody about, because there are issues about how we're going to go about this, whether we're going to do, for example, a recon with the wetlands or not. And so I talked to Michael extensively, and I hope what we'll get is he's going to reissue the scope based on this discussion. And I had asked him to issue the new scope, asking for bids so we would know what a recon costs and what a delineation costs, what a LIDAR costs and a full topography costs. So that,
Well, I don't think you need a vote of this board to consult with.
But I just thought we decided that on the delineation for a de minimis extra $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever it was, we probably should do that because it is a requirement going forward. We're going to need, why duplicate the efforts to do the recon, and then if we're going to have to do the delineation on the other 2, I thought we just decided that we weren't going with the advanced typography, which is literally mapping every hill versus just having a general sense of where the building sites are.
right.
I
don't know where you get, delineation isn't necessarily required. I mean, the recon is perfectly adequate for our purposes.
For what we're doing today, yeah. But if we're actually going to, so fine, I think it's great. But but I just want to make sure that we're getting the project, we're three bidding it, we're not.
Moving it along.
Yeah, the more complex the RFP is, the more time it's going to take them to submit it, and the more kind of back and forth there's going to be. And so you look at, we don't have any secrets. So, you have the right and opportunity to work with Michael as closely as you want. Go for it,
Well,
Randy, this is Bruce. As I think I mentioned to you, I have another meeting at 3:00. I'm going to need to sign off in a minute, but I agree with Patrick. I don't think we should do anything that really poses any significant additional delays. As I said before, I think we're on a short time frame out of the gate, and I, like Mark, don't feel that I'm particularly overly qualified to deal with this. You, Randy, on the other hand, have done this before, and this is your in your wheelhouse. I'm perfectly comfortable, as one member of the trust, authorizing you to work with Michael and making a decision about which of the three bids is the one that we should pursue. And so I just wanted to put that oar in the water.
thank you, Bruce. I do think that people need to be aware, everyone needs to be aware of the information that we have, and if there are any difficulties in making the decision, because it sounds very tidy to say, oh, whoever is the lowest bidder will take them. It doesn't necessarily, it's not my experience that it works that way.
We trust you to work with Michael on this.
we're not dictating that it has to be low bidder. We're just simply saying that, that this is a service we need to procure, and we're going to procure it by the book, and we're going to do it as quick as we can.
I think could everybody hear Patrick? I think that we're all certainly in agreement with that. So, would you like to say something?
Yes.
Lost the thread on having these folks introduce
Yeah,
themselves.
I'm sorry. We got an interruption here. I apologize.
My name is Jackie Harris. I live at 7 Glendale Middle Road.
Okay.
And so obviously, very interested in this project.
Great.
And I apologize for being late. I just heard from my neighbor a couple hours ago, that you were meeting. So my question is, can we get a copy of the scope of work that you're preparing for the potential engineers, so that we can weigh in as we see fit? Obviously, it probably would just be a recommendation, but that's something that I wanted to ask if we could have. And then the other thing I wanted to know was with respect to the donation, which, obviously very generous. Are there stipulations associated with the donation regarding the land use proposed for that parcel?
No.
So in other words, if the town accepts the property, it can use it in whatever way it wishes?
Well, it's not the town, it's the trust.
Okay.
Which is this organization that you're participating in right now. And we are the ones that are receiving the land. It's a stated purpose, and our name is Stockbridge Affordable Housing Trust. And so that is our goal, is to create a mixed-use affordable housing project there. Whether it can be done, we don't know. We know that this is a very generous gift. We are going to do our due diligence to find out as much as we can about, and you're certainly welcome. Everything that we do is public, and the scope of services is something that will be issued by our town administrator, Michael Canales. And it is not the scope of, this particular scope of services is for our purpose to find out how big it is, where the wetlands are. We will be investigating water and sewer. You missed the earlier discussion. Your neighbors have raised this, which we are already aware of, and have started the process to evaluate with our town, the people who manage that. And you all are aware, I think, of some issues, and yes, there are issues, and that being able to provide water and sewer for this project is an important part of the decision as to whether we accept it or not. And
the water and sewer departments are looking into this now, they have a consultant. So we're really at the feasibility phase of this, Jackie, where we don't know if anything can go back there. And so there's a lot of questions. if we get answers that indicate that we could proceed with something, we'll continue to move forward. We are committed to getting more housing in the town that middle-class people can afford. And I mentioned, I think before you came in, that the cost of new housing, 20% of that cost is land acquisition. So if you can reduce that, you have a much better opportunity to create some houses that people could afford to go into. But we're so early in this that there's so many questions we can't answer, and this is why we're going to hire engineers and surveyors to examine the land, see what's even possible, see what the water and sewer circumstances are. Where if there are barriers that make it insurmountable, then maybe the land goes back to Hans, or it becomes a series of hiking trails, a few years from now. We just don't know at this point. So.
But it is important that neighbors are involved deeply involved, because if it was my property, I would feel the same. And I think that it's, and when we say, obviously sitting here, we care, all of you care about this. I mean, you wouldn't be here, but it's one of those situations where, we want more affordable housing, whatever that's defined very differently for everyone. But more housing in general for people to be in this town and families to be in this town. And, but also it doesn't mean 100 units need to go up on a property, so I think it's more having
no plan for 100 units.
With you and us to feel like we can be on a team as this moves forward, if this is something that's viable.
Can I just add?
Can I just say one thing? So, that's really important. I think my background is I was Deputy Executive Director of the New York City Planning Department. So,
Terrific.
Oh, we'd like you to weigh in on this.
Hey, this is terrific.
Neighbors here, obviously, we're all interested in how, members of the public, particularly those impacted by whatever use is finally decided, how we can weigh in terms of shaping this proposal. And I don't know, the first I heard about it actually was when I read the newspaper article that I think a member of the your housing committee, maybe his property, I'm sorry, I didn't really get a chance to look at it that clearly, but I was very concerned when the property was described as a budding solar farm and cell tower, which it does.
It does.
With absolutely no mention whatsoever of all the single family homes that are provided there. And
you need to talk to Clarence about that one.
Yeah. I think, that sort of, to be honest, didn't quite sit well, considering the hard work, that folks.
We provided that reporter with a map of the whole area, including all the other properties abutting.
But that makes
this
sense,
one.
'cause that starts it off,
Yeah.
and then that's how you feel.
But to
that
hear
makes
about
sense.
it in that way
Right.
was very
I
concerning.
just will say, I did leave messages with the households at 9 and 11 in advance of the announcement by Clarence. And I did talk to Tom Forbes the night before. I couldn't reach the Markhams, but I left a message. So just, we're not indifferent to the impact on your neighborhood. And it was at my call.
Impact on our neighborhood.
Your neighborhood, our neighborhood. I live on Cherry Street, so I'm not far away. And I called Tom today to let him know that this meeting was happening, so that I think the word got out and some of you were able to make it here. I will suggest that you keep an eye on the town calendar for meetings.
Will do.
Because this subject will be coming up at a lot of our meetings. We don't meet that often, but that's the best way for you to know. There's an agenda there. If you click on our meeting and you'll see the agenda and you can see what's there. And that's the best way to stay in touch. And we welcome you to come anytime or to Zoom in and participate. And whenever you're here or Zooming in, people get an opportunity to say what they want to say. So nobody's trying to pull a fast one on Glendale Middle Road.
That's really comforting. I do have my own experience with respect to the cell phone tower and the solar farm, which we share another point.
No, but Peter was mentioning it.
Yeah. But the other thing I would just ask is this setting a precedent, the donation of this large parcel for affordable housing? Is this the first time the town has ever entertained this type of land use in an area that is zoned for 1 acre as residential development? Have you any experience with respect to this issue, specifically large parcel being donated in a neighborhood that already has a character.
Yeah, can
Patrick?
these are all excellent questions and comments and concerns. And I think it's, I just want to point out a couple of things. One, all of you are butters, as is the person making this donation. And one of the reasons, frankly, why I strengthened, I know what you're saying, but believe me, with the money that's invested on the other side of the hill.
Why this one big piece is probably being donated, I mean, it's totally separated from his property with a huge,
Wetland.
well, the power lines.
Yeah.
Sure, no,
Probably 100 to 200 feet buffer zone that he doesn't even theoretically have access to this land from his side.
I mean, you can walk right over the hill, but okay, that wasn't my main point anyway. I was just saying that it is a member of the neighborhood who's making the donation. In Stockbridge now, we have 3 existing subsidized housing developments. We've got Keating Court for elderly, which is really, frankly, for folks who are probably the poorest. There's a limited number of assets you can have to even maintain your housing there. You have something like $5,000 in the bank. We've got Pine Woods, which I believe has an income cap of something like $40,000 or $45,000 a year, and that's valued once a year. All right. You've got Riverbrook, which is for the adult women, with developmental disabilities. Many of us have seen, not just in Stockbridge, but in the county, this need for missing middle housing, where we're looking at an opportunity that the law allows for us to complement what we already have, which is frankly maybe at the lower income level, with housing for workforce, for folks who are within that 80% of area median income, which is in Stockbridge, approximately $75,000 a year. But the state allows, if the trust funds it, to get up to 110% of area median income, which actually puts someone in the $100,000 income range. Okay, now all of a sudden you're in a salary range. If someone is, for example, buying a house at a mortgage that is no more than 30% of their income, someone who's a teacher or a policeman or a nurse or many other things we want in our communities, those folks only have to qualify on when they close. Now, they can't flip the house. They can't buy it for the 300 that maybe they could get 600 for and sell it for 600. But for a first-time home buyer, that's a really great opportunity to get some people, some working class, I say working class, some working families into the space, some kids into the town, in a way where all the benefits of home ownership that all of us who own homes, the way that we treat our homes is going to be very similar to what we're doing here. And so I think that, like, looking at where we have the gap in Stockbridge and looking at that piece that frankly, very few towns in South County are addressing that. I think personally, for my vote, that's going to be where I think the sweet spot is here. And to pull that off, it's got to be a house that somebody wants to buy and wants to live in. And if that house was modular and cost $400,000 to put up, somebody doesn't get a free house that's worth $400,000. If they make enough money and they can afford $325 of that $400,000 mortgage in terms of what they would qualify for, they're only getting a relatively small subsidy there, but it allows that person to be able to buy a house here that they're just a little bit short of. Or maybe if they're working as a teacher's aide and only making $50,000, maybe it'd have to be subsidized half. But the subsidy is about closing the gap so that people can get into a house that they own. And that's kind of, I think, that the vision, at least, I see it, and in my conversations with Hans around where this sweet spot is. So it's not giant development. It's not like, apartments, building style kind of stuff. It's meant as homes that are in character for the neighborhood. So
Family.
that's, yeah, I know, no, we can't, until we see, we're going to have an RFP that allows some really great architects and people who build this kind of housing to come to us with design ideas. So if they came to us with something beautiful that was a duplex, I wouldn't necessarily oppose it, as a vote. But, but the idea is clearly either single family duplex there, in a more of a cul-de-sac kind of thing rather than, putting 20 unit apartment building up that goes up 10 stories or something crazy like that. What we're looking at is basically trying to make it look like just like the rest of the neighborhood and just like fit in a New England beautiful. I mean, look at this is Stockbridge. I speaking only for myself, it would be crazy to support anything out of the character of the neighborhood, and I would never do that. So
What's the minimum length of time they would have to own the house before they can sell it?
I forget, we are jumping way.
I am, but that's, that.
We don't know any of those things.
Well, the answer is that's one of the terms that gets set by the Affordable Housing Trust. So you can make it so that after 20 years, they could own the house. You could make it after 20 years, they still can't sell it for more than 10%. There's a lot of flexibility the trust has in setting that. And generally speaking, there's a cap like 5 or 10% if someone owns it for less than 15 years. And after that, there's maybe a little bit more flexibility. But we haven't set any of those terms yet, and we have a lot of control over what those terms would be.
Forgive me, I know
that's way ahead of
Yeah.
what you're doing here today.
I'm not going to ask for our new friend who is a planning director to say, we're here, I just really want to focus on what we're here to do today, which is to accept, which we've done, a letter of donation and allow us, we're going to have until May 1st to do our serious due diligence, which will not be a design. We will not be saying whether it's rental or for sale, whether it's duplex or single family or any of those questions. We will know whether what we have for wetlands, what we have for boundaries, what we have for topography, and we will have the basic information to then hire the planners and the architects. And at that point is when I think you'll be most, as we go through that, after May 15, those kinds of decisions will be the ones that I think you'll be most interested in.
Will the RFP set any, once again, the land uses associated with this?
I'm sorry, you weren't here. You weren't here before.
My apologies.
We are only doing an RFP to do our due diligence, nothing else.
Study the land.
We're going to get the information we need about the environmental questions, the boundaries, the wetlands, and the topography. And from that, we will have a sense of whether we should then accept the land and spend more money to get the planners and the architects involved.
So when the information comes back from the engineer, will it say the sewer capacity is such and such so that could feasibly accommodate housing?
We will know the capacity. We will know.
It's a direction, it sounds to me. And like I said, I have to apologize. I know everybody wants to get
This is just about making sure that, look at the 21E determines whether the land has stuff buried in it. So it's basically a soil test. All right, that's a real simplification of it. So the due diligence here is making sure that the land is safe to build on, to understand where the wetlands are, to understand where there might be building sites, to make sure that we understand the survey boundaries before we do a title search. That's all this is. Okay, then somewhere in time in the future, in a public session, we'll discuss what the parameters are for the RFP around actual, ideas of what we could build there, and we'll ask folks for proposals to do that for us and give them some flexibility to kind of imagine within parameters that we all together set.
But I think you have more than professional information about with the process. So I'm trying to stress where we are and the questions that you have are all important and legitimate, but we're not ready to do that. So if you want to stick with us while we do the due diligence, we'll share with you anything you want to know.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure.
Please.
You're going to have all these people going onto the property to.
Well, an engineering
survey
firm, an engineering firm.
And how are they gonna access to the property to do that? Where are they gonna be going in from?
Well, there's an access point.
Over by the solar, that access point there.
Okay.
Right,
And
well, there's
I-
that, and there's the access point on Glendale Middle.
Well, yeah, I think
Well, if they cut down all the brush and the trees that are there, there's an access, but we don't want anything cut down.
No.
You guys make sure that this is
Yeah.
going through.
Well, they'll access it through the access road that's over by the solar, and then work their way into the property to be able to examine it. I just want to say there's one more member of the audience who didn't get a chance to
Yes.
introduce.
Could you introduce yourself?
I don't want to hold things up.
Well-
But it does sound like you're saying that if you get the go-ahead from these engineers, that you are determined to use that site to build on, is that correct?
I think it's a very, very important opportunity for us. And if it's suitable for development, we are going to go forward, yes.
And so when you're talking about, to your point, when you were talking about the brick buildings or the however many stories, and you said that would be crazy. But just in my experience, a lot of crazy things do happen. When people start making compromises and they start thinking, well, this could work more too. So I think, it's not so really crazy to think that what starts out as an idea to, let's put up 4 or 5 more houses that are in the character of the neighborhood somehow morphs into, maybe there's more money becomes available, morphs into something else. And I wonder I'm sure we've all seen these kind of developments that not far from where we live right now, that have somehow sprung up out of nowhere. And so I just wonder what protection there'll be from that kind of outcome. And how much, like I said, I found it odd too. We were in Williamstown, that's why we're late, and we got a call an hour before. I'm wondering why, if we're here, didn't we hear that there was even a.
Let me address that.
Just so you know, everything we do is posted on the website of the town. So it's public information of our
Why
meetings.
would we necessarily be looking?
Well, let me field this, because I've been in communication with some of the neighbors. I called Tom Forbes today myself to let him know about the meeting as a courtesy. I mean, there'd be a point in the process where abutters get formal letters and all of that. And I think all of you were here as a result of the phone call I made to Tom. Unfortunately, it was short notice for you, but it occurred to me as I was reading these documents, I said, geez, I got Tom's number here. I better give him a call. And I did. So we want the process to be open, but I think the obligation is on you folks to check that calendar, because I'm not going to remember to call everybody every time. I mean, there's a calendar, our meetings are there listed, and the agendas are there. And if you see on the agenda that there's something to do with this project, either you can Zoom into the meeting or come and attend.
But I want to just comment on the substance of, I think, your question, which is, how do you go from, how do we avoid going from a good idea to a bad execution? I was involved in the selection of everybody on this board, okay? Jan here was a CFO at Yale University and is a seasonal resident, beautiful home. Liz is in the real estate business and knows a tremendous amount of property. Randy is a developer of a number of wonderful small to medium-sized projects at the other end of the state in Rhode Island. They were all beautiful. Mark worked for years in what was it? You were at
Bloomberg Radio.
At Bloomberg Radio, but he's like kind of one of the smartest guys in the room, as you can imagine. Just listen to him.
I was a certified financial planner for many years.
Michaela here is a recent mom of a second child and represents, in my mind, not only the aesthetic of working in the arts for the 20 years of her career, but also kind of the next generation, trying to figure out and balance the issues that we have here around the next generation, all the rest of it. And I think the team has got a really good sense of what the trade-offs are and how we and how we have to be committed to doing things within the character of the town. You know, it's got to feel Stockbridge to me, at least for me. And I just wanted to just give you some comfort that this is a really good team that's really going to try to have your back. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to discuss or debate or maybe even argue once in a while over some of the little details. But, you know, I don't think you have much to worry about. I think what you're going to end up with is some new neighbors and a whole lot more little kids in the neighborhood. And frankly, the way it was when we grew up here, a little bit more than it's become, you know, where, you know, in the United States, there's 1.05 births to every death. And in Stockbridge, there's 3 deaths to every birth, okay? And we're just trying to figure out how we kind of make it so that there's still a town here in 10 or 20 or 30 years. We're not trying to screw up the neighborhood and doing that, though. So.
How is this going to differ than the plan that they tried to do in the 80s, where they sunk all the perk holes, they did all their due diligence, and they found that they couldn't put anything there because the land is too wet?
Yeah, well, the perking is a question for septic, and to the degree that sewer is either currently available or would need to be expanded. And by the way, on the project they just did in Great Barrington, they got, the state gave them a $700,000 grant to improve the sewer infrastructure and the water infrastructure to do the project. That's where there's some public money at the state level to do things like that. So, you know, my guess is you're right. If we had to put in septic for what we're doing, it might not be feasible. But hopefully we can figure out a way to maybe not only bring water and sewer by improving the existing service, but that would also maybe deal with the issue of water pressure. And by the way, I'm an intervener. I'm the only intervener from Stockbridge on that Houstonic Waterworks mess down in Houstonic. And, you know, this is a real issue that you're talking about that you had. You know, none of the hydrants work there because they don't have enough water pressure. I would love, for example, if this project involved a water upgrade project to make sure the public safety is dealt with. Because, you know, of course, Vinny has a plan with tanker trucks to take care of all the homes like yours and mine that maybe don't have enough water pressure for a hydrant. Because I know I don't have any in my neighborhood either. But all the more better if there is a hydrant that it can be serviced because we improve or increase the water line. So there's a lot of unresolved issues
Now, would this trust, if the sewer line and water lines had to be expanded, would that be absorbed under you guys, or would that go in front of the town for a tax? Would that be covered under tax dollars?
You're jumping way.
Well, because this is the open hole that I'm talking about, you know. I look at Pine Woods, that was a wetland. Somehow they figured out how to do it. They built it on stilts. That worries me when it comes to this, because I understand why you're taking the cost-effective way out in the initial. That makes sense. It's either feasible or not. I just want to make sure that we're going by the Webster definitions of what's feasible, what's diligent, you know, what makes sense moving forward, that we just don't.
We're not going to build on stilts in a wetland, if that's the question.
We'll have foundations. That's the alternative. So I don't want to go there because I understand where you're going with.
Well, I hear that. I mean, the other thing I will say is I just think I think we're in a different time. Like, we can say in the 80s this happened and that makes sense, and to learn from those experiences. But it's also, you know, like my house doesn't have a foundation. We're on helical piers, and we did that by choice because that's an environmentally much sounder thing to do. And we didn't want to dig into the earth if we didn't have to, you know. So I think in that way. So I think that you're raising a good point, and the question is then we need to make sure we know all the options available that not only make sense for the neighbors and the noise and the this and the that, but also the environmental impacts as well. Because we, you know, for me, I don't want to, like, I live here because it's beautiful and I care about the planet, you know, and I lived in the city for 20 years and I don't want to be there again, you know. So I think that's, we have to make sure that we're doing our research to make sure what all the options.
And one lesson we learned from Pine Woods, obviously, is that the implementation of that construction was imperfect, and that has come back to haunt, you know, construct in the town and in other ways. And there's zero chance that happens here. We're gonna have a clerk of the works or some other oversight. There's got to be there's got to be a commitment to making sure the execution of this at every step is consistent with both what our vision goals are, but also actually, best practice in building. And
What I was
Just a second.
Let me just say something before you go on. I want you to continue, but in order for us to maybe communicate with you folks, it would be helpful if we get names, phone numbers, and emails, so we have a better chance of.
And if you could put your address too, then we'll know.
I'll keep you the name and
I
address.
would also ask, because I did go online to look at
Thank you.
the Housing Committee's agenda from this past month in November. And I was a bit surprised that the agenda item was donation of land. There was no reference to the address. And so while we are trying to remain informed about what's going on here, it's very difficult if the town isn't very specific. In fact, when I saw that, I thought, well, that's really kind of curious, because if you want us.
You can look at me. I do the agendas.
Okay.
So if I committed a fault, my apologies.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the minutes associated with.
They're all posted. They're all
Are
posted.
they up now? Because I looked a couple of days ago.
Liz, yeah, they're up.
all the meetings are on CTSB too. You can actually watch the meetings.
You can go on and watch
I
it.
want to come and this is like fun for me.
Yeah, no, I'm saying,
This experience.
one of the things we did here that no other town does in the Berkshires. One of these in Stockbridge that no other town does in the Berkshires is we record every one of these meetings like this right here. And Michael, by Friday, hopefully, sometimes he gets a day or two behind, he posts this on the CTSB website and not Yahoo, what's the other one? YouTube. And people can watch every single meeting that happens in this town. There's no.
That's great. I would
Yeah,
ask,
yeah.
if you could really please be much more specific
Yeah.
in terms of your description of that particular agenda.
Today, guess what?
What?
Approval of letter of donation for land owned by Hans and Kate Morris.
Yeah.
That's what you got today.
But how would we know?
This is the only thing we're working on right now. If we're having a meeting on building something right now, it's this.
Address.
Yeah.
I know how challenging your job is, but if you could help us by really being very clear about this.
What it is.
Going forward, this is the only land that has been offered to us.
So
So
it is setting a precedent?
what?
Sure, hopefully. I hope there's 100 more Hans
We would have,
for this
if
county.
other
The county
people
desperately
will
needs
be
it.
give us land, because as much land as we can get, we will try to get developed.
But it does raise a question when we were rushing over to get here and we were driving back, over all the beautiful properties. If you got a donation of land from one of the famous Stockbridge properties, would you build an affordable housing unit in the midst of all those mansions? It looks that way.
Yeah.
Oh, Prospect Hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. We were
Yeah.
discussing this on the way.
This is literally abutting one of the most famous, the Swan Mansion is one of the exact mansions you're talking about. This parcel abuts it.
But it's not even close to there.
You can't say that.
I've walked from Hans's house down the hill. All right, but still,
I know
it's
you
30
have,
acres.
But it's
But
not even close. Not even close.
Time out.
yeah,
We're here today to talk about the donation we have.
One question.
yeah.
Okay,
And it has to do with what you're planning on doing right now.
great.
Can you tell me how you're going to pay for this initial work?
Yes.
Is it a special article?
No.
Do you have housing trust funds?
Yeah, we have-
Do you have
We do.
CPC money
We're 225,000 in the trust already.
in just in the CPC housing trust fund?
That's
No,
right.
it's not CPC.
Okay,
This-
that's just in your.
No, in the
own
Affordable Housing
trust
Trust.
Yes,
fund? Okay,
It came from CPC.
all right. And you are thinking that at some point you will be dipping into CPC funds?
well, we're not
We-
dipping in. Every year we,
I know you allocate. I do.
no, they do.
Yeah, I do that for a living. I am a municipal accountant, so I understand about community preservation. Money.
All right, terrific.
We miss you, by the way.
Do you really? First time I've been in this building since I left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just wondered if there was.
I didn't wear any perfume today. I'm just kidding.
No, but I want to be very clear. The trust was set up a year ago in October.
Okay,
We were funded from CPC money for $200,000. We were given another 25 last year.
Okay.
And our next agenda item is, how much are we going to ask for this year?
Right, because that's why I wanted to know, because the budget season's now.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So we will be, and that is the next agenda item, as to how much and we don't really, again, we don't really know, but depending on.
But if you're doing it for engineering or something
That's right.
like that, then you.
Exactly.
The kitty we were in.
Right, if you have your request for proposals, then you'll have kind of a dollar figure.
Right,
Share.
right. And in order to, we probably have enough money to do the preliminary work, the
Right.
planning and the design work that we
Right, I
want to
think so,
do, once we
yeah.
get the due diligence and that information, assuming that it's a yes, it's a go.
Right.
We actually get the land in May. And then at that point, we will go forward with the next stage of
On
pre-development.
that note, I have only about 10 more minutes, so can we go on to the CBC now?
Yes, okay.
Quick question. Does the, and you would know this, well, maybe, does the town have an surveyor and firm that, basically, on retainer or whatever, that you use all the time?
Well, we've used Foresight a lot for other projects. We've used Ty and Bond a lot for the lake dredging project.
Right.
Yeah, they're all like blue chip.
No, I just
Around
think
here.
because we're talking about doing it, just a delineation on the wetlands. You've already got a vendor that you use
Yeah.
quite often. He does a lot of work on the watershed,
Yeah,
Jeff Jordan.
right. Well, Jeff is more the town forester.
That's what he does.
I don't know if he does,
Wetlands.
oh, yeah.
That's part of his job.
He's great, by the way. I met with him a few weeks ago. Fantastic guy.
When he's out, we're doing
Yeah.
forestry work, he has to delineate wetlands.
Yeah,
He
good.
has to know when he's, so that's, he's.
May end up being a
He's
subcontractor.
easy contact,
Yeah.
that could do it.
My attitude is,
He's familiar with the property,
and by the time I'm managing those levels, Mike Canales spent over 20 years running North Adams. Before that, he was running Clarksburg. He's doing a good job here. We tend to not, I'm not speaking for this board, I'm probably speaking at the select board, not micromanage. I leave it up to him to choose the best vendor for a project like that. But I know that he and I met with Jeff together a couple weeks ago, and he's a great guy. So,
yeah, if it's just for delineation of wetlands,
Yeah.
that's right in his wheelhouse.
And he's helping us with our forest management plans in town too.
I know.
Yeah. Anyways,
All right, Patrick, we need
So-
to get together, we need, as a group, to decide about our, request for funding from CPC this year.
yeah, so our closest estimation is that there's going to be approximately $800,000 available in CPC, which Elaine may be surprised at, but which involves approximately the $300,000 we did not put toward the Fen Farm acquisition.
Yep.
The roughly 200,000 plus that was undesignated at the end of last year, and the new pool, which will be about 350,000. That adds up to about $850,000.
Okay.
Now, obviously, there'll be many other applicants besides us, but I do think that we should consider an application surrounding both this project.
Mark. We need you.
I'm sorry, I'm.
Is it personal?
Yeah, it's very important.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so I think that with the Bailey Boyd project likely up and running in the next few weeks, in terms of trying to get us assigned into another one, I think we should go for a relatively small grant around funding.
Bailey Boyd.
Funding, the impediments to doing that. The CBDG funds can only be used. This is basically if you have a house and you make less than 50 grand or so, we can actually have a fund to renovate your house. I'll help you put a new roof on if the roof is leaking, or paint it or whatever. It helps the neighborhood, helps the individual, and helps keep housing stock that may be owned or may have been inherited like mine was, sort of still looking good and being well upkept. So the thing is that the federal money that funds that, there's certain pre-existing conditions that if you have them, like knob and tube, that they won't allow you to renovate the roof. And so what I want to do is suggest that we start to put aside a little bit of money from CPC so that if we have access to 300,000 from the feds and we need 30,000 to remediate like a small electrical thing, that we get the homeowner the new roof, even if we have to spend $5,000 of our money to fix the knob and tube wiring. So I'd like us to think about maybe 25 to 50 grand on the community block grant support for uncovered expenses that are precursor required to be remediated before we could do community block grants. And then I think that we should do a much bigger ask around this project.
Okay. Sorry for all that alphabet soup, but we are, so bottom line, we're going to need at least 50, I think, to 75,000 for this due diligence, is my guess.
So good.
And preliminary land planning.
This due diligence, the CPC round doesn't start until after town meeting, so July 1. It's fiscal year 25, which starts July 1 of next year. So there's no money available for this due diligence other than what we already have.
No.
You can't fund CPC projects for work that's completed. This work will be completed by the time the CPC round is authorized at town meeting.
Okay, so we can use our own, we have
You
enough
have to use
money.
your own money, yeah.
We will use our own money to pay the existing
Yes,
bills,
that's
which is
right.
fine. But we certainly can, going forward, ask for more money because we're going to need money for planners and architects and developing a real proposal for this.
Yeah, we're gonna need, if, I think we should not even, we could have, generally speaking, all in, on similar projects around the county, you need a minimum of 20% of what the cost per unit is that has to come from a local source. So if we were to even do just 6 units, okay, and those units, by the time hopefully we can get grants on the sewer and the water and whatever, but if we can't, let's say those units, even if it's prefab, are $500,000 each. That's $3 million, 20% of this, $600,000, all right? By the time we finish this work, we'll probably have a couple $100,000 left. And I think that we should ask for $400,000 to fund this project. And this project would then entail things like planning, things like architecture, things like the actual amount that we're going to need in terms of the subsidization fund on the building between what maybe someone could qualify for and what it would, what the balance is.
So are you saying we should ask for 400,000?
Yeah, I'm thinking we ask for 400,000 for this and for and 25 to 50,000 for remediation for the community block grants.
Okay.
And this is in the context that there were, I worked closely with the person who followed Elaine when I first got elected to identify, basically we had been doing CPC for 20 years. And so if the project was funded at 50,000, but it came in at 35, we had 15,000 sitting in some account in the accounting system that we never kind of brought back into the available money for new projects. Well, we went through it and found about $1.1 million. So that was over the course of over 20 years of CPC. And that's why that number is so much larger now than what it would be in a normal year, which is around $350,000. So this year, we still have about $800,000 of available money to designate. And I think that, we could ask for 400,000, something like that, and it would still give more than what we would have in a normal fund cycle to do a land acquisition or a historic project or something else. So, yeah, look, I think that's,
So we should prepare a proposal for 450, 460? Is that?
I mean, look, I don't know what our partners in affordable housing in town are going to need this year, like fixing Pine Woods or fixing Heaton Court or fixing Riverwood. I don't know. I have a sense of some of the historic projects that are coming in. And there's one parcel that we're taking a look at for open space. I don't know if we'll get that much, but I think we should ask. I think we should be clear what our costs are going to be and start letting people know that this is where we are.
Is CPC, just from my knowledge, acronym, is that the CPA money?
Yeah, that's the 3%, that's the property tax money that the state used to match 100%
No,
of.
I just,
Do
you
less,
said
yeah.
CPC, I'm thinking CPC.
Community Preservation Committee,
Oh, okay.
you know.
I was.
That's the-
Community Preservation Act. So.
Yeah, the committee doles out the axe money.
No, we're good. We're good. Got it.
All right, so we need to get our little bicycles going on a proposal, right?
When's the next meeting that we have?
That's the next agenda item. We're going to need to, I was thinking that probably the second week in January.
Yeah, so I would like to be tasked with the writing the first draft of some CPC asks. And then they're just due February 8th, I believe. So, we'll have time to review them. And does anybody else have any other things on CPC that we want to take a look at? I think that's, kind of ambitious, frankly, and would be surprised if we get all that, but yeah. I shouldn't say that.
Patrick. Yeah, one question I have is that undoubtedly there will be some need that Pinewoods would have for some renovations and maybe Heaton Court as well. So is it your assumption that those needs would be going directly from Pinewoods to the CPC for requests of funding, or that they would come through the trust?
I think that I'm the designee for Heaton Court, and I'm happy to talk to Andrea about whether she wants to coordinate. I think that in general, if folks want or need our assistance or our advice or our partnership, that's great. They've got a lot of experience applying for CPC funds on their own, and I'm not looking to create work to do. If they want to ask for our help, we'll give it to them, and if they don't, it's totally fine. I don't have an opinion one way or another.
But turning the telescope around, when the CPC request, the CPC asked the various historic preservation groups to review any historic
Applications.
Yes, thank you. Anyway, that CPC relies on our historic preservation groups to recommend on proposals. And it was, I thought, our discussion last year with CPC that we would provide that same service for CPC for all the affordable housing or the housing questions.
Yeah, I think I thought that my sense is that there's a finite amount of money and we're competing for the money, and I think we should be a little cautious about being a, arm's length, honest broker, whatever on. All right, see you later.
Happy holidays. Thank you. Happy holidays.
Did everybody sign? Do we have?
Yes, we have it.
So we know how to get a hold of
Jackie, do you mind if I
everybody?
call you? I want to get I want to pick your brain on planning.
Sure.
All right, I would love that. All right, thank you.
You just got
Yep.
your
Yeah, exactly. You know what?
Yes, you did.
No idea.
Let's go to the man right there. These are brains.
All right. So wait a minute, Jack, are you Jackie?
That's Jackie and Nick.
Jackie Harris.
Okay, terrific. All right, great. I would like to talk to you, actually.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Any questions?
Yes, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
See you later.
You want to come?
Yeah.
Okay.
I scanned it and emailed it to him.
Yeah, I think we should tread carefully is all I'm saying.
She's unbelievable. I know. Thank goodness we have
I
Michaela.
think we tread carefully, and I think that our primary focus should be on what we think, and not, one of the interpersonal dynamics last year seemed to be that the community preservation committee has been in existence for 20 years, and it is their prerogative to fund what they believe are the highest, best use of those proceeds. And I don't want to get into a turf war thing. I just feel like we've got two great projects that we can make a case for. And if CPC and the town wants to fund them, they fund them. And if they don't, then we'll figure out another way.
We also need, we have the Pinewoods project, the playground which I think we have enough money for, but the garden part, we've got to raise some money for that. So I don't know whether we want to apply to CPC for some money for the garden.
I don't see why. I think that we don't own that property. If Construct wants to apply for garden money, they should apply for it. I think that we got our hands full here, and I don't want to underfund block grants to build garden beds, frankly. And so if that project is short and they want to apply for money, both as a member of CPC and I think it's a reasonable project and very, very, very good. But it's we gave money for the playground. I think we kind of did our part, and I want to be cautious that we don't create reasons not to. These two projects are critically important for the town. There's a lot of people who need repairs on their houses, and we're going to have to raise some money if we're going to build any units up there. And
Well, and it has to be done well. So.
Yeah. Just so actually it's a very good point in case everyone isn't aware. The people that have been hired to raise community block grant money have set us up in the next go-around with Great Barrington and Sheffield and us. And it's all being handled by the consultant and at no cost to us for their work to apply for those funds. So there'll be a meeting very shortly, and I'll get a notice out to everybody. And we don't need to be there. We don't have to have a meeting ourselves because we are a partner in the application, but Great Barrington is taking the lead on it. But this time, we will not be left in the cold because we have someone who's representing us.
Good.
So we pick a date for the next January.
Yes, what's good.
Okay, and then I got to run.
Second week of January? It's like the 8th to the.
Is anybody, Jan, what about you?
I can definitely do the end of that week, Thursday or Friday.
What date is that?
11th. 11th is Thursday.
12th, I think, Friday is, well, or the following Monday, which is best? Can Thursday?
The following Monday's Martin Luther King Day. You can't do it.
Thank you, that's not good. Thank you.
Why don't we do it? What's wrong with the 11th, the Thursday, the 11th?
Yeah, let's do that.
Can you do that? Okay, everybody?
Good here.
Well, we don't know Bruce. So I'll send that.
I mean, look at this. We don't have anything to meet other than on CPC, right?
Hopefully there'll be a report on.
Let me just say, in a few minutes, I'm having a conversation with Karen about the draft for the housing.
Oh my gosh, we thank you.
That too.
Yes.
And we are going to have a draft that we will send out in the next week to everybody.
Okay.
And hopefully you will all be able to read through that and ready to have a discussion on the 11th of January.
So the 11th at 4 p.m.?
That, 4 p.m.?
Yeah.
Is that good? Is that our usual time? So Thursday, the 11th, 4 p.m.
Yes.
The major item will be the draft HPP, and we'll have an
And
update.
CPC. We got to agree on the CPC.
Okay, so, and Patrick, thank you. You're taking responsibility for the first draft. So the CPC proposal, and any update that we might have on the due diligence, right? Okay,
Good. Okay.
anybody else?
Motion adjourned. I got to run. Bye.
Second.